I didn't move 12 miles from my nearest neighbor because I loved the view. Hell, I moved out here because I wanted to be left the hell alone. No rules, no noise, just trees, wind, and whatever peace a man can buy with a busted credit score and a little luck. So you can imagine my mood when a trio of khaki-clad busybodies showed up with smiles sharp enough to draw blood. I used to think the scariest thing in Tennessee was tornado season. Turns out it's folks with clipboards and an agenda. After my marriage burned out and the ashes settled, all I wanted was insulation. Physical, emotional, spiritual, you name it. The place I found had all three plus a sagging barn and a porch that creaked like it was complaining just for fun. The locals still called it the old Sutton farm, but to me it was the Randall place, a fortress in the woods, just far enough off the map to feel invisible. Honestly, when I first walked through that mess, raccoons in the attic, rainwater running down the inside of the kitchen wall, I just laughed. You ever see a place so broken it almost dares you to fix it? That was my kind of project. I kept the original beams ripped out. The rest wired the whole house for smart sensors and installed enough backup power to keep the lights on when the rest of the county went dark. The best part, a security system so paranoid even the deer learned to walk around it. I don't do things halfway, and I sure as hell don't like strangers telling me how to live. Which was perfect because my nearest neighbors were a quarter-mile off, tucked behind the kind of fences you only see in crime dramas and luxury car commercials. Stone Point Estates, they called it. A master-planned community, whatever the hell that means. Every time I passed their brick pillars on my way to town, I felt those fancy gates staring me down like my old Tacoma didn't have the right pedigree. First month out here was golden. I fixed up the barn, poured concrete for a walkway, even bought a handful of chickens just to see if I could. No drama, no visitors, just the way I like it. Then came Tuesday. I'm outside leveling gravel sun on my back when this white Lexus creeps up my drive like it's casing the place for a bank job. Out hop three people, a woman with sunglasses big enough to double as windshields, a guy with an iPad glued to his arm, and another who looked like he was only there to take the blame if things went sideways. The woman led the charge. Hi there. I'm Karen Bylaw, president of the Stone Point Estates Homeowners Association. We just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood. I'm leaning on my shovel, trying not to laugh. I'm not in your neighborhood, I said, real calm. You'd think I told her I eat puppies for breakfast. The smile never moved, but her eyes went sharp. Well, from a certain perspective, your lot borders our community expansion phase. We like to think of you as part of the greater Stone Point family. I leaned a little heavier on the shovel. I'm not in any HOA. I checked. Karen's smile didn't budge. That's a matter of perspective. She talked about visual cohesion, maintenance standards, and community value like she was quoting scripture. Then they invited me to their next meeting, just to introduce myself, of course. I appreciate the visit, I said, which was about as close as I get off my land. But I'm not interested. My land, my rules. You ever see someone's whole week ruined in real time? That was Karen right there on my gravel drive. Well, she says, voice frosty, I hope you'll reconsider. It's in everyone's best interest to maintain community integrity. On their way out, the iPad guy snapped pictures of my solar array. That's when I got the first whiff of trouble. A week later, a letter shows up, no stamp, just slipped in the box. HOA stationery full of polite threats about voluntary guidelines like trimming my hedges and moving my solar panels to a more discreet quadrant. It ended with Stone Point thrives on harmony. Let's keep it that way. I tossed it in the burn barrel. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. Not long after, I started noticing headlights at odd hours. A black SUV idling by my fence, then coming back later. My property isn't on the way to anywhere, so I checked my camera's license plate frame, said, proud to be Stone Point, great. I started sleeping with my security app open. Then one morning, a guy in a golf cart labeled HOA Patrol stops at my gate, whips out a laser measurer, and starts aiming at my fence. I stepped outside holding a drill. He hit the gas like I was brandishing a chainsaw. Now, when people start acting like rules don't apply to them, I get busy. I documented everything, uploaded footage, filed a trespass report with the sheriff, and doubled my cameras. Thermal motion triggered, cloud synced. I kept my mouth shut, but I knew Karen wasn't finished. Folks like her don't take no for an answer, they just get creative. Pretty soon it wasn't just letters and golf carts. Came home one day, mailbox half-open, paper sticking out, no envelope, just big, bold text. You are out of alignment with the Stone Point community aesthetic. Listed off all my so-called violations: solar rack fence height, non-standard paint coloration on the barn. Compliance is not optional. You've been warned. I scanned it, filed, it still didn't flinch. But then 2 blue-vested figures showed up on camera on my side of the fence 20 feet into my yard, trampling my vegetable bed, measuring my barn. The truck they came in had a Stone Point maintenance magnet, no plates, of course. They knew my schedule. This wasn't random. That night, I walked the fence with a flashlight and a sidearm. I wasn't scared. I was done being passive. Next morning, I filed a police report, sent certified letters to the sheriff, and the HOA office told them in legalese that this land was private and they'd be prosecuted if they crossed the line again. 3 days later, I get a letter, not from the sheriff, but from a Stone Point lawyer. Professional as hell, all veiled threats about enforcing harmony and further action if I didn't comply with their standards. No law cited, just intimidation. I handed it to my lawyer, who nearly laughed herself out of her chair. They have no jurisdiction, Tim. None. Not a single inch past their development. I was a rock in their shoe. I thought that would end it. But then I found footprints fresh right behind my tree line where cameras didn't quite reach. Someone was watching, waiting. I pushed my thermal sensors deeper, hit a backup recorder in the attic, and started sleeping lighter. Then one night a black SUV rolled by, and this time it stopped. Karen sitting in the driver's seat staring down my drive for 5 minutes before leaving. Next day, another letter I'd hate for something unpleasant to happen out here. You're so isolated. No signature. I tested it for print, set up a perimeter alarm. That night, floodlights snapped on at 3:27 a.m. The feed caught a figure in a hoodie darting into the woods. Too fast to see a face, but they knew the cameras. I spent that night at the kitchen table, lights off, cup of coffee, watching the screens. Friday night it happened. Just finished. The Maltese Falcon about to go to bed when the security lights explode and someone pounds the door. 3 heavy, deliberate bangs. Then voices. Step out of the house. Hands where we can see them. Another voice closer. Is there a weapon inside? Are you alone? Blue and red. Lights lit up the yard, marked cruisers blocking my drive, flashlights cutting through the dark. I froze, then moved on. Instinct. Wallet, phone cameras rolling. Open the door, hands up. I'm unarmed, I said. This is my property. The cops, 3 of them all tense. Sir, we got a 911 call about domestic violence threats with a firearm. I blinked. That's a lie. I told them I'd been watching movies alone, had cameras if they wanted proof, but unless they had a warrant, they weren't coming in. One cop shot a look at the others. You're uncooperative and evasive. I laughed. You barged in here on a false tip. That's not evasive, that's the Fourth Amendment. They didn't like that, but they didn't have a case either. They left slow, one at a time, their lights strobing off the trees. I downloaded every second of footage. Nothing but me and an empty yard before they showed up. But the camera caught the black SUV earlier, Karen pacing by the ridge on the phone just minutes before the cops rolled up. Coincidence, not a chance. I filed a complaint with the sheriff, attached everything, video, time codes, affidavit. No reply. But the next time I passed the HOA bulletin, there was a new sign: uncooperative neighbors are dangerous. Spray painted in red, beneath, if you see something, say something. Like I needed a reminder. I thought it was over. I was wrong again. Thursday night, 2:14 a.m., motion detected, east tree line. 2 police cruisers, lights off, crawl onto my land. 6 officers this time, fanning out like they're hunting Bigfoot. I hit the PA. This is private property, not Stone Point HOA. You're being recorded. One officer shined his light straight into my camera, trying to stare it down. They never knocked, never called out, just poked around and left. I filed another complaint. This time I wanted names. Routine safety sweep, they claimed. Sure. I compiled every image, every thermal overlay, every angle. Sent it to Internal Affairs, the DA, the local news. Still, no one called me back. Then, reviewing footage, I saw something odd. One cop tossing something into the brush. Next morning, I found it a cheap wildlife cam taped to a tree, not mine. On the card, a single clip of me stepping onto the porch during the last police raid. Someone had put it there to monitor me. HOA cops both. I called Marcus, my old colleague, now a compliance guy for the state auditor. He didn't even pause. They're testing you, Tim. They want you unstable, scared, so you'll cave. But how were they pulling strings at the sheriff's office sponsored patrol contracts, Marcus said. HOAs pay off-duty cops as security. Supposed to stay on HOA land, but... He trailed off. Can you help me prove it? Already started, he said. But you're stepping on toes now, be careful. Marcus dug up the contract, Stone Point HOA County Sheriff, and two names, Deputy Clark and Officer Menard. The same two who showed up that first night. And the map, they'd literally redrawn it to include my property as patrol range. That wasn't an accident. That was fraud. Marcus flagged the doc, and I sent everything to Valerie Greer, a civil rights lawyer in Nashville. Oh, honey, she said they picked the wrong introvert. The HOA fired back fast, certified letter accusing me of creating a threatening atmosphere. Attached were pictures, one of me on the porch brandishing a firearm. Only it wasn't a gun, it was my post-hole digger. Their photo was cropped, darkened, blurred to make it look like a weapon. I ran it through a forensic tool, edited, no timestamp free app signature. Fabricated evidence. Valerie was furious. Not just civil anymore. Felony territory. False reports, falsified evidence conspiracy. She filed notice we were suing the HOA and referring the whole thing for criminal investigation. I wanted more. Subpoena every patrol report, every meeting transcript. Let's drag them under oath. Things escalated. A new manila envelope, Karen, as HOA president, was suing me for threatening the community and hindering emergency response. More doctored photos, this time a rifle photoshopped into my hands, a gun that was actually my glove holster. Valerie brought in a forensic analyst, Sarah, who confirmed they'd doctored the evidence. Sworn affidavit motion to dismiss their suit with prejudice, and then we hit them with a federal case, harassment, defamation, conspiracy, civil liberties, violations, emotional distress. The twist, Marcus found the real motive. Stone Point wanted my land for $1 million clubhouse and private road. They'd been trying to buy up adjacent lots for years. When I wouldn't sell, they tried to force me out. Worse, Marcus traced campaign donations from the HOA to county commissioners who approved the patrol contract. We might be looking at RICO violations, he said. Meanwhile, Karen kept up appearances, calling press conferences to paint me as a dangerous armed hermit. But while she was busy talking, Valerie had our motion approved to unseal all internal HOA emails and Slack chats. The messages were damning. Karen, if we push him just a little harder, he'll crack or sell. Another board member. Try again Friday night. Loud noise. Welfare check. This was psychological warfare, not concern. Jacob Greer, a retired land assessor, reached out. He had original survey maps. Turns out the HOA had filed forged maps with the county, adding nearly 2 acres of my land to their boundaries, notarized by a friendly surveyor. That's felony fraud. Valerie called a geodetic expert, reported it to the state board, and within days the notary was suspended. The board was under investigation. The sheriff's office. Their 2 pet deputies went on leave, rumors swirling about off-the-books payments from HOA funds. Valerie froze Stone Point's accounts. Judge approved it. That's when things got real. Threats, dead animals in my yard. Anonymous notes, back off. You think you've won, but this is just the beginning. I handed it all to the local PD, not the sheriff's department. They finally posted a patrol on my road. I upgraded my system, off-site backups, the works. And still I wasn't moving, I wasn't selling, I wasn't hiding. When the day of the final hearing came, Valerie's case file was thicker than a cinder block. Courtroom was packed, press neighbors, some quiet supporters. Karen sat with her lawyer, jaw clenched. The judge, no-nonsense, hated liars, listened as Valerie laid it out. The patrols, the forged maps, the harassment, the doctored photos, the motive to steal my land. Karen's defense tried to play it off as a misunderstanding, blamed clerical errors and outside contractors. But the judge had read the emails. If it was a mistake, he asked, why did you write, let's try again Friday night? Loud noise. Maybe call a welfare check. Silence. Then the Deputy Attorney General stood up and submitted parallel criminal charges. Misuse of police resources, land fraud, bribery. Arrest warrants were issued for Karen, 2 board members, and those deputies. Karen screamed about witch hunts and spying on us, but the judge just nodded to the bailiff. She was cuffed and led away in front of everyone. A week later, verdict: HOA, dissolved assets liquidated for fines. I was awarded $1.1 million plus costs. Stone Point reformed into a transparent civic council with 0 jurisdiction over my land. Me, I stayed. Built a better gate. Installed a sign, private property, not part of any HOA. All incidents recorded. With the settlement, I started HomeSafe, a nonprofit helping landowners fight HOA abuse. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Dozens reached out, then hundreds. Every time I walked through my gate, I remember how hard they tried to push me and how much harder I pushed back. Funny thing is, in fighting for my own patch of dirt, I found something I'd lost after the divorce purpose. I learned the hardest lesson there is. Sometimes justice is a job you have to do yourself. One document, one camera, one sleepless night at a time. So let me ask you, where's the line between protecting your peace and letting someone trample it for their own gain? Is justice just a matter of who's got the bigger fence or the bigger fight? If you've got a story about standing your ground, or if you think I went too far or not far enough, drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about where real justice begins and where it ends.